Everything that you see, the thousands of sutta, it will come back to Four Noble Truths. For example, very simple thing, you see how this teaching is so wonderful. Sometimes you see how the Buddha explained from the gross to the refined one, more refined one, and to the very deep one. So let's say Four Noble Truths, right? So the Buddha start with, of course, we said Four Noble Truths. Actually, not really. No. First, the Buddha, you see, the first teaching, Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the Buddha first said, don't go to the extreme of sensual pleasure. Don't go to the extreme of self-mortification. That is the first teaching. Okay? Why? Because you go to the extreme of sensual pleasure, what does it bring? The Buddha says it's a vulgar thing. It's non-profitable. Yeah? And it's also painful. Yeah? And so don't go to the extreme. Yeah? And it's very ordinary, the Buddha said. Very ordinary. Yeah? It's those common people's way. Yeah? So don't go to this extreme. The other extreme, don't go to self-mortification, thinking that this body is a hindrance or whatever, and you torture this body. Now modern people torture the body by stress. And the handphone, they torture themselves. No, handphone one is a pleasure, extreme of pleasure, addiction. And the other one also, they torture themselves with the stress. Even playing handphone also can go to stress. From stress, then they go to depression. From depression, then they go to kill themselves. You see or not? So this also is another self-mortification. Yeah, so they mortify themselves. In the past, they use a lot more physical, like this: stand on one leg, or they take one hand up, or they crawl like the dogs or the cows, thinking that will lead to liberation. Or they are naked and they don't wear anything, and they just live on certain thing. Everything they say, kill kuman or whatever, they will just brush. Yeah, water they will sieve. Yeah, but that is only outside, you see. In the water they cannot see, right? But all their beings too. But then the others will do like they sleep on, let's say, the nails or whatever. So, those kind of extreme practice to torture the body, or they don't eat, they fast to death. So the Buddha said these are not the way to practice. Why? Because it's also non-profitable. You only get painful feelings, and it doesn't lead to emancipation. So this is the first teaching the Buddha teach. Second, the Buddha said, by avoiding these two extremes, then walk the middle path. Means by avoiding these two extremes, walk the middle path. So this middle path is none other than the Noble Eightfold Path. So the Buddha starts with a Noble Eightfold Path first. Yeah, the way. Yeah, means by avoiding these two extremes, because it's how people live. It's how people live their life. So, but how? If we avoid these two, we must have alternative. So what is it? The Buddha said, middle path. This middle path is none other than the Noble Eightfold Path. So the Buddha gave prescription, you see, one, this, and then how to go in. So when he said Noble Eightfold Path, then you ask, first he said middle path. So what is middle path? Noble Eightfold Path. What is Noble Eightfold Path? Then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Then after you ask back again, okay, the 8, so the 8 factors of the middle path, and then you ask the first, a right understanding as a right view. Then you ask again, what is this right view? Then the Buddha say, the right view is what? The Four Noble Truths. Not only Four Noble Truths, the cause and the effect and condition of things, the dependent origination, all these things comes in, right? Then from here, then the Buddha say, when you have this, understand this, it will naturally condition your thoughts, the way you think. So then it will condition right thoughts. Then again you ask, what is right thought? People say, right thought, right thought. Thought of pleasure is right thought or not? I ask you all, right thought. Thought of pleasure, is it right thought? What do you think? But say, we baby must have a bit of pleasure lah. Isn't it? Right thought actually not pleasure. Right thought is nekkhamma, means what? To renounce pleasure. To renounce sensual pleasure. Without renouncing sensual pleasure, cannot attain nibbana. even very subtle in the mind, you got to relinquish that. Without that, you're still stuck. Understand? So, without understanding right view, right thought, this right understanding, the right thought won't really be accomplished. So, right thought, first one, nekama, means renounce sensual pleasure, sensual desires. Yeah, any sensual desire, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, even the mind pleasure, to think something nice here and there. Yeah. So next, what is right thought? Thought of metta, loving kindness. Yeah. Then third, thought of non-cruelty. That is right thought. So this, when we understand, what is this, what is that, then we know what to do. You see, from 8, then you divide more detail already. Right? Then they say, okay, right thought will condition right speech. How does speech come out? It's from the thought. When the thought break, it break into speech. So when you have right thought, you have nekama, let's say, renouncing sensual desire. So your day-to-day talking, you won't be talking about makan, you won't be talking about go here, there, watch movie, this and that one. Isn't it? Because renouncing sensual pleasure, what you'll be talking? You'll be talking about how to be more kind, how to be more generous, how to be more wise, how to uplift our mind, how to avoid unwholesome things. You will talk all these things. Isn't it? Yeah? So then, that's where we said the truthful speech, the beneficial speech. Because if we talk everything and anything, about, let's say, the politics, the economy, all that, but not with the purpose of understanding or urgency to do something, or let's say to prevent certain, let's say, or we say, we don't talk about what happened to the country. It's not that we don't talk. We talk only those functional things. Let's say if let's say we want to open and we don't know the SOP, we are ignorant then, right? Then we can get into trouble. But we talk for the sake of what? Our country have this, and then this is the things that, let's say, need to be observed, and to what extent we need to observe, and then, how we can still, let's say, carry on with the activity they allow, but you have to do certain preventive measure, so that we need to know what, so then we don't get into trouble, right? So when we talk means with meaningful talk, beneficial talk, and pleasant talk. Not just to talk for anything. Sometimes when, let's say, devotee come, they may talk about family things, but because they have certain issues, so we got to listen first, and see what are the things that actually they are in trouble, or they are in certain things, they are stuck with a certain, let's say, very fixed mind on certain view that they do not know maybe. But through their talk, then we listen, then we'll be able to help them to really, to understand, where that source of, let's say, unhappiness or suffering comes from. Then it's okay. You let them talk. They will talk about their families, talk about what. You listen first, right? So let them, reconcile with what that is bothering them. And then after that, then we point out to them, maybe you can use this way, and Dharma way, and how to practice or whatever. We can feedback to them. So that kind of talk is fine, but not just talk for the sake of talking somebody's house, somebody's things, or all these things. No. So this is, you see, right thought will condition right speech. Right speech will condition right action. So the right action to do the right thing, like I say, when you thought of, saving life, so no killing, even in careers or in whatever, let's say, we avoid, we choose not to, right? So it helps in our choosing our action. And from there, that's how we choose our livelihood. So we have a livelihood that does not go against, let's say, the 5 precepts. So when we work very peacefully. We don't have the guilt. Even last time, like I shared with you also before, our devotee, she's a purchaser last time for construction. But then after that, she changed her job. She's a purchaser for a restaurant chain. So she has to purchase chicken every day. So every day, 800 chicken will die in her hand, one call. So she told me she cannot sleep. She cannot sleep, but maybe it's a good pay lah. But she cannot sleep. She for 2 years. Then one day she met me. She told me she said, for 2 years I have insomnia. Then I asked her, so what is triggering you when you cannot sleep? What comes to your mind? And she said, yeah, I have my job. I'm a purchaser. So he said, every day I have to order 800 chicken to be killed for the restaurant. On call away only. So I don't feel good. So every time I take the phone and call, I don't feel good. I don't feel good. So can you imagine 2 years? So I told her, I said, you've forgotten. You have a choice, right? You're a purchaser. Last time you're a purchaser for, let's say, the construction thing. You can choose again for those things that you don't have to, ask or order the life to be killed. You can choose. So make a good choice. Then 2 weeks later, she called me. She said, I resign. I want to find another job again. I said, good. So you don't have to, 2 years and plus more years cannot sleep. For what reason? That will ruin your life, ruin your health, ruin everything. Because those kind of remorse, it only will add on if you don't relinquish. So imagine with that, what's the use of maybe extra, maybe 1,000 ringgit with that, the peace of mind. So who punish who? Nobody. It's the karmic. No, all this you'll be surprised. When you see the idea of killing, it will eat into your mind. It's just a karmic thing, son. Because you are alive. You are alive. And when you see another life is struggling for life and is going to die, and even you see that, it arouses your compassion. But now you are the one that order them to be killed. You may not directly kill, but you order them to be killed. So it actually eats into this psychic, we say, conscience, your conscience. So some people, they say, they don't feel anything. Not true. They feel one. It's just they thought, it's my job. It's not my fault. I didn't kill. So I just ordered them. It's just my job. I just give a call. I didn't kill. So they try to reason out. But they know. In our mind, the conscience cannot run on. They think they don't feel, but all this conscience, you cannot run on. Yeah, it can be like we say ignorant, but still, like we said, if I are kind to you, it's beyond religion, right? Whether you're Muslim, Chinese, Buddhist, or whatever. If I'm kind with you, you can feel the kindness even without talking, right? But if I try to be harsh to you, try to hurt you, harm you, also beyond religion one, Alright? This is harmful. This is, we don't have to tell even, but you feel let's say the harm coming, the danger coming. Will you be in fear? Actually, we say both are ignorant and depending on what they call the intensity of their intention to kill. Yeah. So that beyond our calculation. So depending on the person. You know why I say so? Because my own father, before he passed away, I say why when during end of our life, all these things will come up. You find it very interesting. I never know. He never tell. And, as a daughter and we are spiritual, we try to help them to go through, we say, age with grace, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So I asked my father, I said, Dad, do you have anything concerned, that you think that you wish to do but have not done? You know what he told me? He said, last time, got May 13, he said, everything kelang kabut, so your neighbor's chicken run also over our place. So at the time, very difficult to get things for food. So I took the chicken slaughter for our family. How many years already? My father, 80 years old. Nearly 50 maybe over years. How can that come into his mind? And then I said, so he don't feel good. He felt that he stolen my neighbor's chicken. So then I said, oh, no worry. That uncle's still alive. So we can, but now people staying house where got rare chicken. You cannot bring one chicken, kuih bu there and give back, all right? So I said, don't worry. Ask mother and my elder sister to go. So we buy Essence chicken. And go and tell their uncle, oh, uncle, my dad say in the past, Ko Isa that time, May 13, he stolen your chicken. And today we like to ask for forgiveness and we'd like to return this, but because you don't rear chicken around your house, we buy Essence chicken for you. So the uncle was laughing. Yeah, I don't even know all this thing. Was so old, long story. Yeah? But you see, to my father, something. Yeah. So after finish, come back and say, Dad, done. Then after some time, I ask, Dad, do you still have anything in mind, You know what he told me? Last time, I borrowed some money from this friend. Yeah? But this friend already died. So how, I still owe him. Huh? So I said, like that. So how much you owe him? You take out that money. So we donate this money in memory of him. Okay, we donate for building the temple so he can get the merits continuously. Okay, how much you owe, that's how much you take out and donate. Okay, no? Done. So sometimes you will think, when we were young, we don't know, he said, we go and catch fish. So we catch fish, sometimes they say want to be fast, the kolam, we put something, so all the fish marble all come out. And we catch. You see, so this thing comes. Yeah. So we think nothing. But all will start to be very vivid. So if we are of the habitual of doing all the good things all the time, all the things will be good. Yeah. So the mind will be at the higher stage one. But if you have done something wrong in the past, all these things needs to be reconciled. If you don't do it this life, carry next life. Then you always feel something missing, something, you don't feel good, but you don't know what. Yeah, so it is very important, to help ourselves to cleanse all this. That's why we say seeking forgiveness is so important. Every day we do that because we don't know what we have done in our past life. Yeah, so we need to do, and we also always continue to cultivate, abstain from wrongdoings, unwholesome thing, and continue to cultivate the wholesome thing, and to purify our mind. Purify means even good, but still sometimes it's a tinge of greediness, craving. I practice good because. So it's not pure yet. It's not that I practice good because it is good, but because of something else that we want. There's still expectation, clinging, something there. You see, so that's why we say karma, bad or good, is the error. But pure karma is where when we say the mind start to understand there's no I and mind to possess. So we don't do that anymore. We are still living, walking around, doing whatever it is, but the mind does not latch on that anymore. Right? Okay? Abhivadana silisa nichang vada pachayino chattaro dhamma vadanti ayuvanna sakhang balang ayararogya sampati sukha sampati mevacha ato nibbana sampati minate saming jatu. So we dedicate this for the success building of the first Malaysian Theravada Bhikkhuni Nandri and Dhamma Training Center, that more and more people will be able to learn, to practice, and to realize the Dhamma for the well-being and for the well-being of all others. So may all be blessed with good health, prosperity, and peace, and may all attain the bliss of Nibbana at the earliest opportunity. Sakyot.